move on and introduce Barry Draskovich, who is the VP of Program and Contract Management for Parker Aerospace.
Yeah, so Barry is a friend and a colleague. Barry joined Parker in 2010, and he's responsible for the development and execution of programs like the Boeing 787, the Gulfstream, G500, G600. So Barry also has over 30 years of experience in aerospace and defense materials, electronics, and working for firms like Parker, Raytheon, Honeywell, and Pratt Whitney.
Yeah, and actually I learned a few new things about Barry I didn't know before while prepping for this. He holds a bachelor's degree in metallurgical engineering and a master's in materials science, both very difficult fields, from the University of Pittsburgh, and he's certified in obviously project management and Six Sigma.
Also a very significant accomplishment as well is that Barry and his team were the finalists in 2016 for the PMO of the Year from the Project Management Institute. And Barry also holds 6 U.S. patents, which I did not know until we started to set this up. So Barry, without any further ado, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Great. AJ, Jacques, thank you for having me today. So greatly appreciated. So just to make sure, am I sharing my screen or is somebody going to run? I just wasn't.
I think Lucky's going to run it for you.
Okay, sounds very good. So Lucky, if you can pull up that first slide, that would be great. And I just wanted to say, I sort of felt like I was doing a Rorschach test in that last session. And
right?
I am not going to disclose what I was seeing in those pictures.
we appreciate that, Barry.
Yeah, not a problem. Hey, I just wanted to take the next few minutes to just sort of overview the strategy that has that Parker Aerospace has taken in this journey of program management. Jacques said that I had joined the company in 2010. It's hard to believe it's been that long already, but I was really brought in to establish a program management function within the organization. And part of the story that I'm going to show you today is really where we were and where we are today with respect to our capabilities within project and program management, and the key elements of SMA being part of that journey. So if we could go to the next slide, that would be great. So just a real quick overview of Parker Aerospace. For those that you don't know, we are a global leader in the aerospace field in various areas: flight control actuation, hydraulic systems, fuel and inerting systems, fluid conveyance, pneumatics, lubrication systems. So quite a few elements within the airplane that we are involved with. $2.4 billion in sales, should be higher if it wasn't for COVID and the 737 MAX debacle, but we're going to get back up to where we should be soon. We have 9 divisions within the organization itself across 24 manufacturing locations and 5,600 employees, a good portion of which are engineers, you would probably imagine. And as you can see from the pictures, we're involved in everything, just about anything that flies, from a Piper Cub all the way up to the F-35. If it flies, helicopters, rockets, missiles, commercial airliners, business jets, we're involved with it, and you find Parker product on those things. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about COVID. So this graph shows monthly air traffic. These are airline departures are being tracked across the world. And you can see there's 4 different areas that we're tracking here. China, Asia minus China. In the lime green, it's Europe, and then North America in the purple. And you can see that over the last several months, especially North America, China, we've really done a lot of recovery. China is now down 18% from where they were pre-COVID. North America is down 28%. But Asia, outside of China and Europe, are really still dragging quite a bit. They're minus 60 and minus 64% of last year's numbers, respectively. So they're still down pretty good. If we dive deep more into North America, you can see that the U.S. is actually leading the pack in North America. We're only down minus 20% from pre-COVID levels. At a worse point last March and April timeframe, we were down as much as 77%. Mexico's also recovered well, but Canada is really struggling. They still have a lot of lockdowns, and they're still 80% down from pre-COVID levels. And then if we look within the US, you can see that the Southwest and the Southeast have really recovered well, down only 15%. The Northeast, which was down as much as 90% pre-COVID, has recovered to minus 40%, but that's still a significant decrement from those pre-COVID levels. But the good news is that at least in North America and China, things are recovering. It's going to be a little bit slower in Asia and Europe, but hopefully as the vaccines get deployed, this will recover and our industry will right itself again. We really took a big hit last year. The next slide, please. So let's talk about Parker Aerospace. So really our burning platform when I came on board was that Parker was transitioning from a component supplier to a systems integrator. We had just won $10 billion worth of new business on these large, mainly flight control systems, but systems integration work across the organization. The project size and complexity was much higher than what we had been used to. There was a lot of requirements, ambiguity associated with being a systems integrator. We weren't just handed a spec, but we were given a black box and said, you got to make it work. And then the organizational maturity, we really didn't have that maturity put into place to be able to handle these projects of the size and complexity that we had won. And as a result, we were seeing some very poor financial performance, low customer satisfaction. We weren't able to meet the customer's expectations. We were really struggling with things. So the company actually decided, look, we've got to take a different approach. We really need a disciplined approach to program management. And that's when I was brought on board to come in and establish that. So next slide, please. So with that, we developed a strategy statement. And in that, it says that we want to provide a business level competitive advantage to Parker Aerospace in the planning and execution of our projects and programs. And we had three major focal points, focal areas that we wanted to look at. One was improved structural alignment. I'll talk about that a little bit later. Skills and competencies, and then standardized processes and tools. And it's key here that we were focusing on this competitive advantage because in many instances, our products are hard to distinguish from our competition. There's no real technical advantage that we might have. So where we wanted to provide some competitive advantage is in the way that we actually execute the programs. And that's been our focus all along. Next slide, please. So taking that strategy, we really put it into graphical format with this slide. And let me just take a minute to explain what this slide says. So the large oval in the middle, that's sort of a salmon color, I would say, says Parker Aerospace PM policy. We really started with that, and that document defined what program management was at Parker Aerospace. From there, we used that as sort of the trunk of the tree, and from there we established branches off of it. We defined all of our processes and tools that needed to support that basic PM policy. And those are listed in the middle oval and the right-hand side oval of processes and tools. And you can see that there's a lot of the standard PMI related processes and tools in there. You'll see some things that might not be directly called out within PMI, such as production and support readiness and production cost management. But we augmented what PMI was providing as a foundation to do what we Parkerized it. The key point is over on the left-hand side, the people, structure, and the training. I'm of the opinion that you can have the best processes and tools in the world, but if you don't have the capabilities within your team to actually execute those processes and tools, it's sort of useless. The analogy I like to give is that you can have a very skilled carpenter and give that skilled carpenter rudimentary tools of a hammer, a saw, and some other minor tools, and they can make beautiful furniture. But you could get the best tools in the world and hand them to somebody who's not skilled in carpentry, and they're not going to be able to build anything. So it was really important that we focused on those on the people side of the equation. You see there's a lot of things in there. I'll talk about one of them, the organizational maturity, PMOM, a little bit later, but another one there was PMP certification. We actually wrote within our job descriptions that certification was a requirement to be within the program management function. And program management function, just for definitions, includes program management, project management, and project planning and control. So those are the three major elements within that function. And then you can see that there's these green ovals that surround everything that talk about all the other functions, including not only leadership, but our customers. And the takeaway down there is really important. Program management is not just not the program manager, but it's the glue to successful execution. Like I like to think of the program manager, or the project manager, or the conductor of the orchestra, right? They're not playing the instruments, but they're conducting so that everyone is playing together and we're not making noise, we make music. Next slide, please. So let's take a look at the structure a little bit. I think this was an important aspect of the success that we were able to achieve. The first thing I want to point out is over on the left-hand side, Program Management Vice President. That's me. And I report directly to Parker Aerospace, the president of Parker Aerospace. I think this was important in that we had the visibility within the senior leadership and that I was on the same level as my functional peers from a program management perspective. What we see a lot is that the program management function, it's buried underneath some of the other functions. Sometimes it's finance, I've seen, sometimes it's engineering. But in this area, we've actually broken it out. And I have that visibility and I have that direct access to my boss, the president, to try to help influence and implement some of the major changes that we were putting within the organization. Now, there's two different color boxes around some of the items on this chart. Let me talk about the one in blue first, and we call that the Program Management Leadership Council. We have a small team of about 15 people that's made up of representation from each of the 9 divisions. I actually should say 9 under PMO lead, one of 9. That was the only spot that I missed changing, and I apologize for that. We just added 2 divisions into our organization within the last year. But we have a PMO lead in each one of the divisions. And then we also have representation from our lean product development organization out of engineering, from human resources, and from the IT team. So we make up the core that we're in effect the clearinghouse of what program management is across the organization. And then the purple squares identify the actual program and project managers and PP&C analysts that we have within the organization. And one thing that I think that you'll find a little bit unique within Parker is that as the vice president, I have no direct reports. All of the folks who are in the program management function report up through the businesses. We want them to have P&L responsibility. I have a mantra that I use within our organization, and it says the PM is the GM of the program. Right. So I want that PM to be acting just like a general manager, but on their portion of the business, which is the program or the project that they're running. So with this structure, the PMLC, we're able to drive standardization and competency uniformly across the entire PMO, right? So it doesn't matter which division or which site we go to. The attempt is that we're using the same processes, the same tools, and the same way to execute across the organization. And we've made those processes and tools to be scalable. So it doesn't matter if we're working on a very small R&D project or a $350 million systems integration program. Next one. Next slide, please. There we go. Okay, so part of deploying our vision and strategy, our vision was to put together this strategy document. And it's really a current state versus future state view. And what we did was on the left-hand side, you can see all the various topics that we covered under 3 major headings: human resources management, processes and tools management, and knowledge development. And then we broke those down into subcategories. And on the right-hand side is actually a little snippet of the document itself. And you can see that we have those areas identified in the left-hand column. But what we've done is we've taken this one, in the middle column defines what our current state is. And then the right-hand column defines what we want the organization to aspire to in a 5-year period. And we are, aspirational in what we write there. What does the headline want to look like in 5 years with respect to program management at Parker Aerospace in each one of these areas? And this is a living document. So we update this document every 2 years. And when that 2-year period is up and we refresh it, we're looking out another 5 years. So we're continually moving that bar as we're going through the years of our evolution. This has been very helpful in helping us focus on what are the things that we need to change and what's going to be most impactful of all the topics that we have here. So can we go on to the next slide, please? So how do we measure our progress? I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I mentioned PMOM, but it's the Project Management Organizational Maturity Assessment. And what we do is that we've set up a matrix that really follows CMMI. Those of you that are familiar with CMMI, it's the Capability Maturity Model integrated. It's out of the Software Engineering Institute from Carnegie Mellon University. And it really defines the maturity of an organization's ability to deploy their processes and tools. And it's based off of a 5-level scale. Level 1 means that you're in effect doing everything ad hoc. You ask 10 people how to do a certain thing and you're going to get 10 different answers. On the other hand, other end of the scale is level 5. And that means that you have optimized processes. You have a documented process. It's standardized across the organization. It's used on all of your projects. You're collecting metrics against the efficiency or effectiveness of those processes and tools. And you have continuous improvement feedback loops that are changing those processes as you learn more and more and more. So those are the 2 endposts, and level 2, 3, and 4 are just graduations between those 2 endposts. And what we use this tool for is that we're on an annual basis, we do evaluations across the organization, and we're continuously looking for gaps. And then we try to plug those gaps. And we measure this site by site within the organization itself. So next slide, please. I'll show you some of the results. So this is a view. We've been doing this PMOM assessment since fiscal year 11. And this is an average of all of the results across all of those areas, across all of our sites within Parker Aerospace over those years. And you can see that in fiscal year 11, we were pretty low. Remember, a 1.0 is that you do everything ad hoc. So we were just above doing everything ad hoc when we started this journey. And you can see every year we've had improvement, except for the year fiscal year 19. What the heck happened there? Actually, that was on purpose. We went through and we re-baselined our evaluation criteria. We made it harder. And so that's where you see the drop from a 3.4 down to a 2.9 in fiscal year 19. We did not do an assessment in fiscal year 20 due to COVID, but we've done one this year. And you can see that we've actually, through the efforts that we've done over the last 2 years, we brought that score back up again and even higher than the fiscal year 18 levels, where we weren't even using as stringent of criteria. Next slide, please. And this is more detailed information on that. What this shows is all of the areas that we evaluate. The first group of 9 are the basic knowledge areas out of the PMBOK. The last 3 are ones that we've added into the organization ourselves. The first one, UPC management, is unit production cost management. Of course, earned value management. We base that based on our systems description document. And the last one, benefits realization management, which is a new category that was added into the PMBOK several years ago. And the key element here, actually couple key points, is you can see we're not just sort of cherry picking areas that we want to improve upon, but if you look at those scores in each one of the categories, you see year-over-year improvements. Again, except for FY19 where we saw drops, you see year-over-year. And this is the first year that the robin's egg blue line that goes a 3 across the organization was sort of our target. We wanted to get the entire organization to a CMMI level 3, right? CMMI like level 3. Let me clarify that. It's not a CMMI evaluation, but a PMOM level 3. And we're there. We're just on the verge. We have one area, UPC management, that's just below a 3, but in FY21, all the areas have now exceeded a 3.0. Very good evidence that we're making an impact and that our EAGLE plan is working. Next slide, please. So what's our journey look like? And go ahead, one more. So we started this in 2010. We launched the PMO and we established the PMLC. Next, please. In about the 2011-2012 timeframe, we put in place a PM appraise and the PMOM assessments. We established a PM career path. We got all of our procedures that were aligned to the PMBOK, and we standardized our metrics and reporting. And you can see I made a note there that in that time frame was the first time that we really engaged SMA and brought some folks in, and we've had a relationship with you guys ever since then. 2014, we got 100% of our organization certified through either PMP or CAPM. And we started to do things like WBS templates and resource loaded schedules. Next. Out in the 16 timeframe, we established EVM. We put a systems description document in place. We rolled it out. We had job descriptions that were aligned to earned value management and established expectations. And then we started some of these other empowerment surveys. Next slide, please. And then as Jacques mentioned earlier, we were a finalist in the PMO of the Year competition that's sponsored by PMI, something that we're very proud of. Benefits realization and data-driven continuous improvement. Keep going. One more. And then out in what we're doing right now is we've advanced things so far that we've deployed some of the advanced EV metrics, things like TCPI, IEAC, to the point where even our senior level management can converse in TCPI and IEAC. They know what it means. They actually can understand the data and understand whether things are on track or off track or whether corrective actions are needed for some of these advanced metrics. And now working with Shane Thompson out of SMA, we're putting together some advanced analytics and dashboards that are really helping the organization take earned value management and schedule and cost management overall to the next level within our organization. Next slide. One more. So what? Right? This is the key point. So what? We put all this effort in place and it looks good. So what? So we have data that over a 4-year period, we baseline things in FY16 when we first rolled out earned value management. It was really our first opportunity to be able to measure the organization's performance with respect to CPI and SPI. And compared to those data, over a 4-year period, we are able to prove that we have $110 million in cumulative cost avoidance due to the CPI improvements that we've been able to demonstrate. And this was a base of $400 million. So that's almost 25%. And then 8+ months of schedule delay avoidance due to the SPI improvements that we've been able to demonstrate. That was on a 48-month base. So these are significant improvements to the organization, concrete elements that show that what we do has a substantial impact on the organization. We can measure it, and that translates directly to the company's bottom line. So we've shown value in how we've deployed and what it means to the organization. So Val, there is definitely buy-in across the entire organization as to the value of program and project management. Next slide, please. So this is my wrap up. Some of the lessons learned. Establish where you want to be, your strategy, and then develop actions to get you there, all those tactics. And it's really important that you incorporate key performance indicators so you can measure your progress along the way. Secure sponsorship through the executive level. And one of the rules we put into place was opting out is not an option, right? You have to do this across the organization. You have to follow the standard rules that we've put into place. Act as a team, not as a group of individuals. and focus on the people. I talked about that earlier about why it's so important that you get the competency levels in the folks on your team. And that strong competency is not just the hard skills, but it's the soft skills. It's the influencing, it's the negotiations, it's the communication skills that are so, so important for a program manager, a project manager to be effective. What's in it for me? Establish how this is going to make their job easier, more fun, more successful, and then have robust and scalable processes and tools and define early wins. So I think that we've established a successful deployment methodology and used it across the organization. And I just wanted to sort of share our story with you in the 20 minutes that I had. So I'll close it off there. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to entertain.
Wow, Barry, what a phenomenal achievement you've accomplished there, Parker. It's an incredible story. Really love how you started with what the current state was and the future state, and the fact that you don't call the future state the end state,
Right.
that you continue to evolve that. I really love that. And the maturity model is just incredible.
It's been quite a journey, Barry, and thank you for bringing us along with that and letting us be part of that journey. It's been a distinct pleasure.
No, we've been great partners, and we really appreciate the partnership. I got to tell you that the SMA folks that are on our team, people don't know that they're contractors, right? You guys act as that you're Parker employees, and I think that makes a huge difference in the engagement that we have. So thank you for that.
Great, and thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
That's part of what we try to really achieve. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Barry. That was an incredible achievement.
Yes.
Thank you.
I had a question really quick, if it's possible.
I think we have time for a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Barry. Well, one question I had is when you're trying to establish this milestone that you achieved, how did you overcome the different divisions like quality, manufacturing, R&D, where they innately sometimes they don't cooperate with each other, or cooperation with each other is a hurdle? How did you overcome that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have two answers to that. One was I worked with them very closely, and one of the benefits that I have that made my job easy is that within Parker there is a culture here that if you can show people a different way to do it, they're willing to abandon the old ways and adopt a new way. And that's very difficult. Parker is a 100-year-old company, 103 years old now. So there's been decades and decades of, this is how we do it at Parker kind of a mentality. And what I had to do was break some of that down and show them, and that's why that last item on my last slide about the early wins was so important, is pick a small project and demonstrate what the benefits of disciplined project and program management can do to the organization. And once we were able to do that, we were able to get people on board pretty quickly.
It's great.
Now,
Fantastic.
the other side of it was I definitely had to break some eggs within the organization.
No doubt.
Right. And as a matter of fact, it was to the point where, my wife used to tell me to look under my car when I was leaving work at night to make sure there were no bombs planted. That's when I bought a sports car that was real low to the ground. And so the bombs had to be limited, right?
That's great, Barry. Thank you. Barry, you're welcome to stay on to the end if you like. So thank you so much.
Yes, definitely.
Great. Thank you for having me.